Hello, everypony. It's ChibiChabot. I am here once again, doing a reading of In Sheep's Clothing by Kydois. Today we have Chapter 5, Smells Like Fish. Now, Nymph. Hey you! Get on the ground! I snarled, glaring at the stallion in the alleyway. The thug took one look back at me and my charged horn before, immediately bolting in the other direction, his hooves a blur. My eye twitched. I fired off my stun bolt, sending it streaming down after him, but he was already turning the corner, and it fizzled out on the brink behind him. "You scumbag, get back here!" I shouted as I flew out of my apartment after him, leaving my door hanging open behind me. I leapt over the downed green pony, who was groaning pitifully in a heap of cardboard boxes to the side, and turned sharply at the T intersection after the mysterious pony, skidding across the ground as I changed direction. He hadn't gone far, but he was still a considerable distance away. There are too few long stretches of space between and behind the apartment for me to line up a good shot if he kept weaving into the little side paths, so I kept galloping after him. He was fast, probably faster than I was. Every time I turned a corner, he was already turning the next one, but I knew he was going to run out of space eventually. Either that, or the commotion was going to attract other guards to help chase him down. Already, ponies were peeking out of their windows to see what all the noise was. I made a hard right and caught him scaling the brick wall that composed the outer perimeter of the apartment complex. Instantly, I readied another shot, widening my stance to help steady my aim. But while I had inherited many things from myself, my aim under pressure still wasn't quite up to my former self's pinpoint accuracy. I clipped his leg with the stun bolt just as he passed over the wall, and he fell on the other side with a heavy thud. I scowled before galloping over the wall after him. He may have been shocked for a moment, but earth ponies were no one to shrug off a stun spell if they were only hit on an extremity. He'd be limping away if he recovered, though, so I could probably catch up to him. My hooves scrabbled at the brick as I tried to scale the wall, and I barely managed to get a hoof hanging on the edge. I swung my other foreleg up and pulled myself over the ledge. He was gone. The alleyway laid straight out into the street, which lunch rush had already filled with hungry bodies. It was further than I expected him to go if I tagged him with a stun spell. I got my back hooves up to the wall and hopped down to the ground, stumbling forward as my weaker left foreleg threatened to crumble under me. I trotted over to the alleyway opening, craning my neck so I could sweep my eyes over the crowds. No disturbances. The crowd showed no signs of having been parted for a rushing body to slip through. A shadow fell over me, and I jumped back with a sharp breath when Steelblade came in for a sudden landing at my side. "What happened?" he said with a look of serious concern. "I heard you yelling and came over to investigate." I relaxed my posture. "Somebody got slugged right outside my condo," I said. "Looked pretty bad, too. I was in pursuit, but I lost him here." Steelblade's burrow furrowed. "Well, I didn't spot him from the air. He might have just gotten away." I slipped into my empathy sense, staring blankly into the crowd, in a sea of apathetic minds. The ones tasting strongly of anxiety and panic stood in sharp contrast. He was moving, but slowly, trying to make himself scarce in the river of moving bodies. "Not quite yet," I murmured. Turning to follow my mental map, I trod briskly through the crowd, bumping into ponies left and right as I tried to navigate with only my empathy sense. "Where are you headed, Overwatch?" Steelblade said as he pushed up after me. "You know where he went? I thought you lost him." He was close. I had managed to close the distance on him, but he was still ahead of me, and I couldn't tell which pony head was him. "It's just a feeling," I replied. roughly bumping another pony as it slipped out of my empathy sense, and scanned the crowd. Call it a mare's intuition. Well, all right. One of the ponies ahead tried looking behind him, and my eyes quickly tracked the movement. He turned his head forward quickly and began moving faster. There, that one, the gray stallion with the navy mane. Steelblade followed my line of sight to the thug and narrowed his eyes. I see him, he said, picking up the pace. Hey, you! The gray stallion looked back briefly before bolting into the side alley, and Steelblade exploded into the air after him, the ponies around him letting out surprised shots at the sudden action. Guard business, out of the way! I shouted as I wove through the crowd, shoving aside distracted ponies too busy gawking to figure out what was happening. I galloped down the alley after Steelblade, who zipped his way between the narrow walls with practiced ease, using his hooves on the bricks as necessary to make sharp turns. But our target proved just as elusive. And after a moment, I managed to catch up to Steelblade, who flew in circles high above, his head moving side to side as he tried to catch wind of where our stallion had gone. I stumbled to a halt, panting heavily as I rolled my aching left shoulder. I took a few steps back when Steelblade landed beside me. Damn, lost him. Pretty fast, little burger, he said before turning to me concernedly. You really shouldn't exerting yourself, you know. You can't tell me what to do, I said automatically, slipping to my empty sense as I trudged through the back alley. Come on, the scent of fear leads you this way. He looked at me strangely, but followed me nonetheless as I turned another corner into a packed alleyway leading to the street. There wasn't much in this particular pathway. A decent number of trash bags was piled into the side of the building, along with a few discarded pieces of furniture and one large dumpster. I narrowed my eyes to the dumpster as I silently trotted over to it. Steelblade realized my intention and quickly slid over to stand, taking a well-balanced stance before crouching like an unsprung trap. 3, 2, 1. I mouthed out before grabbing a hold of the dumpster lid with my magic and flinging it open. The thug sprang out, wielding a pair of brass hooves as he lunged at Steely. The Pegasus guard was prepared, however, and rearing back into his rear hooves, Steelblade neatly arrested the thug's forward motion with a quick, two-hooved shove, pushing him back. Our attacker recovered quickly, but had stopped his next attack by slamming the covered dumpster down on his head. He slid back into the metal box, the lid closing on top of him with a loud whomp. Steelblade and I stood there silently for a moment, prepared for any further attempts on us. But the alley was quiet. Slowly I came down from my high, and the sudden fit of angry determination that propelled me out of my condo in the first place steadily ebbed away. I said carefully as I stepped over to the edge of the dumpster and slowly pried it open. Steelblade cautiously ventured, looking in at the unconscious earth pony slumped up atop a bed of black trash bags. I think you might have hit him a bit too hard there, Overwatch. Is he okay? I opened the lid the rest of the way, letting it settle on the wall behind the dumpster. There weren't any emotions other than the lingering taste of shock coming out of the dumpster, but I stepped back just in case. Steelblade reached in, hefting the body out, dragging him to an empty spot in the alley. Well, he's breathing. No bleeding or a real sign of trauma. But there's no telling how much he scrambled his brains. My lips twisted into a grimace. My control over my magic was imperfect. I had only meant to disrupt the stallion a bit. But a hit meant to disrupt him usually doesn't end with a massive dent in the metal lid of a dumpster. I had a basic knowledge of the magic and spells that Overwatch regularly utilized, but the fine-tuning was still off. I would have to figure out my limits before I accidentally brained somebody with a disproportionately powerful bola shot. Steelblade gave me a comforting smile. Don't worry about it. We still have to bring him back to the guardhouse since he technically resisted arrest and assaulted a city guard. So we can have somebody look at him there. Make sure you get his brasses, though. Can't leave evidence behind. I nodded dumbly before levitating out the thug's weapon. I made a face at the smell of the dumpster, closing it quickly after removing what I needed from it. Right, I said, holding the horseshoes a little distance in front of me, as I watched Steel Blade heft the sleeping thug onto his back. Do these look his size? He chuckled. Seems good. Come on, you said this guy assaulted somebody? Steely said, leading the way back through the labyrinth alleys. We should make sure every pony's okay. Your condo's on the way back anyways. Oh, all right then, I said meekly. You should get him back as quickly as possible, though. Hard to say when he'll wake up. I can get the witness report myself. He just nodded with a short, "Okay," before falling into silence. Despite the dark atmosphere clinging to my coat, retracing our steps certainly helped us avoid some of the attention we would have gotten if we had taken the streets. And any time away from crowds was time I was thankful for. Still, we eventually had to venture out into the main streets, and I trailed behind Steelblade silently as he made his way through the lunch rush. Hey, Overwatch, he said as I reluctantly trotted up beside him. How'd you get to chasing these guys anyway? Oh, I started, figuring out the best way to phrase it. It's not much more than what I've already told you. I caught him from my window whipping around to punch somebody behind him across the face, and I just kinda started yelling and chasing after him, Steely said with a chuckle. I wasn't even 2 blocks away before I heard you screaming. I pouted. Sorry, I'm not usually like this. Really, this is exactly the type of thing I expected from you, he said with a wide grin. You can get pretty intense with the right triggers. My ears perked up. This sounded like just the type of information I should take careful notes on. Triggers? Like what? He raised an eyebrow at me. You're kidding, right? You have the biggest hero complex I've ever seen. You charge in blindly any time you think somebody's in trouble, Steely said before turning to face the crowd again. I swear, that kind of stuff's gonna get you killed one of these days. A hacking cough immediately ripped its way out of my throat, and a startled Steel Blade erupted in a cloud of feathers as his wings beat futilely against the unconscious pony on his back. Crystal. Lily. There was a groan from the green pony lying in the pile of cardboard boxes, her legs twitching in the air. I sighed as well as the makeshift necklace could sigh. Lily. Yes, love. When I told you to avoid this neighborhood because of some shadowy elements, that was not an invitation for you to stick your face into his hoof. You didn't tell me he was a big fat meanie face, Lily explained, raising her head out of the cardboard boxes she rested in to glare at where I laid on her chest. What are you kind of jerk starts a conversation with decking some pony across the face? The kind of jerk who does not want to be called out for watching some pony, I replied. Can you please get up? I would rather not draw any more attention to ourselves, especially from the Royal Guard. We still need to find a hotel. Yes, we made it to Counterlot, but I'd much rather spend my time in some place of semblance of comfort, and I know you do too. I may be a gemstone, but I do not need a nose to tell you that you are starting to smell. Her head slumped back into the boxes. Could it wait a bit then? I still can't tell which way is up. Lily, we have already spent too much time sitting around doing nothing, I said with a groan. I still cannot believe you stayed unconscious after a hit like that. Course I did. Got me a thick skull, I do. Yes, you are unbelievably thick sometimes, but at least it's working in your favor here. I paused. So, can we leave now? I would like to remind you that I am incapable of moving myself, and I think that other ponies should be back soon. I fell silent. Very slowly the sound of hoofsteps echoing across the pavement grew louder and louder, until its source finally rounded the corner. Oh, she's right where I left her, the charcoal mare said. I almost expected her to be back on her hooves by now. The white Pegasus shrugged. On his back was a stallion I explicitly warned Lily about. I don't think we're gone for too long, maybe a couple of minutes at most. The mare raised an eyebrow at him. Really? Felt longer. One of Lily's legs twitched in the air. Are you sure she's all right? The stallion trotted over to Lily, who still laid on her back in a pile of cardboard boxes, and poked her with a hoof. You did say she got hit pretty hard. Lily lifted her head out of the boxes again, her eyes slowly focusing on the stallion in front of her. I'm fine, love. Don't you worry about me. Oh, and you got him. Good show. The charcoal mare cleared her throat into a hoof. Excuse me, ma'am, but, she paused, her eyes flickering over to me briefly. We need to take a witness report from you, as the victim. Really now, Lily said brightly. I've never had somebody take a witness report from me before. What can I do for you? Well, first, the mare gestured at the boxes crushed under Lily's body. We should probably get you off those boxes and somewhere more comfortable. Oh, that's convenient. Crystal was just talking about us finding a comfy place to sleep, Lily said. She rolled off her makeshift cardboard bed and onto her hooves, stumbling around a bit as she found her balance again. I swung to and fro from where I hung around her neck, and she went back to the boxes to retrieve her saddlebags. I didn't mean it that way, miss. The unicorn mare kept looking down at me, and I was starting to feel really self-conscious. Sure, the gemstone itself was beautiful, but Lily turned me into an impromptu necklace by tying a loop of string around me and then holding it in place with a lot of masking tape. Oh, my name's Lilywater, the mare pony managed to stand reasonably upright. What's your name? The mare was paying way too much attention to me. Alarm bells rang in my mind, and I quickly shifted my magical signature. Instantly, the mare's gaze darted down to me. Overwatch. Corporal Overwatch. The charcoal mare let a tiny yelp when Lily attacked her with a hug, pressing me tightly between their bodies. I bristled at the sudden contact, surrounded on all sides by fluff and tape. I kept silent, waiting for Lily to stop being Lily. The stallion just laughed. Looks like you two are getting along perfectly fine. I'll drop this guy into one of the holding cells and start filing out the paperwork, he said, already making his way out to the front gate. Try to report to the guardhouse when you're done, and take your break already. Wait, Overwatch squeaked, as stiff as a board in Lily's embrace. Though thankfully the mare let the unicorn go before too long, flashing her a wide grin. Overwatch returned a strained smile, a not unreasonable reaction to Lilywater's overly friendly personality. So my apartment's just over there. I just need to ask you a few questions, she said, taking a few hesitant steps away from Lily before walking back to her still open door. Lily followed close after, still beaming. Oh, is this to make sure I'm a good tenant? She asked. I'm a super clean pony. You don't need to worry about me. It's not quite like that, ma'am. It's about your incident with the stallion, Overwatch said as she pushed the door open a bit further and trotted inside. Here, take a seat. Lily's expression quickly contoured into a frown as she carefully slid into a chair at the singular table in the room, dumping her saddlebags into the ground with a loud chink of metal. Oh, that icky face. What do you need to know about him? Overwatch closed the door behind her and sat in the seat opposite, her nose wrinkling as she took in Lily's ripe scent. Well, we can start with a few basic questions to start, she said, levitating an empty piece of paper, a quill, and a bottle of ink out of the worn saddlebags leaning against the wall. So, tell me about the events leading up to you getting hit, ma'am. Miss Lilywater, was it? Her eyes flickered down to me again. Yep, but she can call me Lily, Lilywater replied. So the events leading up to that? Well, see, I had just arrived in Counterlot on a big steamy metal thing, and I was walking down the street looking for a place to stay when Crystal told me to avoid a certain neighborhood because there were some jerk faces hiding around there. So I went thinking, why would someone want to hide around a neighborhood for no good reason? So I went up and asked him, and then he did a whoosh and hoofed me. Overwatch stared blankly at Lily for a moment before dipping her quill into the ink bottle and jotting a few notes down. I see. And could you tell me who this Crystal is? Lily Water, I swear, if you throw me under the bus, I am going to... Lily plopped me onto the table in front of her. Oh, this is Crystal. She's been my best friend ever since I swam to Baltimore. Uh-huh. Overwatch wrote down a few more things. I don't know how to say this, but, you know your necklace might be alive, right? Of course she is. How else could she help me learn about the surface world? Overwatch blinked. Could you? Oh, stop dancing around the issue, changeling. I felt a little smugness when she shrieked, backed away from the table so quickly that she nearly fell over her own chair. Who are you? She stammered out, staring at me like I was an alligator. And how did you know I was a changeling? You can call me Crystal, exactly as Lily told you, I said calmly. And it was fairly simple to figure out. Judging by the lack of scrolls or scarly material in your humble abode, I presumed you were not some powerful pony wizard in hiding, and from that, I could think of only one civilized creature that could detect my existence. Your reaction only confirmed it. The temperature in the room fell drastically. Have a seat, changeling. She carefully obeyed, scooting her chair back into its proper place. How are you in the hive mind? I mentally shrugged, cursing my lack of a usable physical form. The hive mind of the changelings has always been a thing of magic, intrinsic to the race itself. As I am little more than magic at this point, it is simple for me to access and use your hive mind to communicate. Do not be concerned, however. It is a trick that I can replicate with Lily here, and she is most certainly not a changeling, let alone a pony. Overwatch eyes turned up to Lily in horror, who was humming absent-mindedly to herself and bobbing to a beat. She is as harmless as she is thick. The only thing she really knows how to do is poke her nose where it does not belong, and vaguely follow directions. It'd be best if you consider her as another subset of the ponies. I see? Just roll with it. I have found attempting to understand Lily to be unduly stressful. Oh, okay. Anyways, disregarding my companion, I would like to know a bit more about you. You may dispel your disguise, I said, my tone a bit more akin to a command than a request. I was curious about the presence of changelings in Canterlot, to say the least. A touch of authority was generally a good way to guide the direction of conversation and pry out the information I wanted. Overwatch looked distinctly uncomfortable as she crossed her forelegs. Why? I am well aware of the implications of asking a changeling to drop their disguise, but I know that I do not wish any harm upon you. I carefully let my emotional signature flow out again. Hopefully a gesture of sincerity would help convince her. I am merely curious. Long-time infiltrators tend to take acting like their mask to an almost subconscious level, and I find that speaking to their true selves gives a much better picture of who they are inside. We are quite safe here. For the sake of this conversation, I ask that you dispel your disguise of your own violation. She stayed silent, staring at me as if trying to see through whatever deception might be there. But after a lengthy period of silence, she breathed out a sigh and enveloped herself in green flames, leaving behind an unusually young female changeling. She lost about half a head's height with her transformation, and the table was now a bit high for her, though with how she was acting she might have been trying to sink under the table. Name and position, changeling. Nim. She quickly stifled the rest of her answer, but I noticed she straightened up as she was saying it. Clearly well taught despite her age. Apparently she responded well to authority too, though perhaps a bit too young to be properly skeptical of what authority to obey. You may choose to skip your name if you're uncomfortable, but I would the very least, like to know your role within the hive. I am well versed in hive hierarchy, and it would save me the trouble of deducing it myself. Of course, I could always just assume you are some talentless nymph, and we could proceed from there. She sat just a little bit taller, though the effect was diminished by the table still being too high for her. It appeared her pride was a flaw I could potentially exploit later. Well, you're wrong there, ma'am. I used to be a ranger, but I'm serving Canterlot as an infiltrator. A ranger? Those relics? I thought those were all but gone. I certainly would have gotten rid of them. I said it was already unusual to send a changeling so young into the pony world, but to train a female in anything except love collecting or hive maintenance was highly unusual. You said you were an infiltrator. What is your assignment here? Overwatch paused, fidgeting with the scarf around her neck, now much too oversized for her smaller body. She could literally bury her head in it if she wished. I'm not too sure about that. I was simply told that I had taken place of one of the ponies they were planning to replace since I cast a memory spell, and that I was working with them now. They still haven't told me what my purpose is. If I was not interested before, I certainly was now. Too many things were not adding up, and there was just too much being left unspoken. She was being vague, and I suspected she knew a little more than what she was already revealing. I would have to get to the exact circumstances around her reassignment later. The memory spell she mentioned disturbed me. I had a feeling Canterlot was going to be more important even when I sat at the bottom of Horseshoe Bay back in Baltimore, and something about this was starting to smell very fishy. Something other than Lily. Cor, you have 2 bedrooms? A cheerful voice called out from adjacent hallway. Who else is sleeping here? Overwatch let out another yelp, twisting around to look at the green pony. Just me, but you're not supposed to. How did... Her head swiveled back and forth between the mare pony and the empty chair across from her. Ah, so you have an extra room, do you? And how much to rent it out? What? But it's not for rent. Money is not an issue, I reassured. Lily, get back here and throw our saddlebags on the table so that I can better state my point. Aw, but I've seen the bathtub here. It's huge, Lily whined. But she came back anyways, lifting up her bags with her mouth and tossing them onto the table, very nearly missing me. It fell with the same rattling metal chink as before, and I watched with amusement as Overwatch's eyes widened in sudden realization. Yes, I mentioned that earlier that Lily is very good at following instructions. Turns out there are quite a few gamblers in the casinos, all too eager to take advantage of a poor, ignorant mare like Lily. Rather unfortunate they are so unpracticed at keeping their own excitement under check. So I gave Lily a few pointers, and well, their emotions were very easy to read. Enough that a changeling like you could theoretically do just the same. Whoa, hold on, Overwatch said. I never said anything about how the room was for rent. It used to be my parents', and... Lily will not move a single thing in that room, believe me. But, you have nothing to fear from us, and we will try not to get in your way too much. I'd very much like to have this room without having to resort to more underhooved tactics. She finally let out a groan, mumbling into her scarf. Fine. I guess you can. Excellent! I can start laying down our payment plan. Now, you needed to turn in a witness report for Lily's accident with that stallion, did you not? And I can speak with Lily about our arrangement in the meantime. Well, okay then. Overwatch pouted, but trotted over to the bathroom before reapplying her disguise. I noticed it took her a few tries to completely remove all traces of her being a changeling. When she trudged out again, I called to her, Overwatch! She looked at me with a hint of a slouch in her posture, but she straightened up a bit as she approached me. I realized that I may have been very forceful in pushing for my extended stay here, but I must emphasize that I will not hunt you or your hive. I have a personal interest in Canterlot, and while I cannot tell you exactly what that is, I believe your room here will provide me a unique vantage point at which I can observe it. I wish for nothing else but to get along with you, Overwatch, and I hope you can try to relax around me and Lily. A little diplomacy can go a long way, and I did not wish to deal with the potential problems Overwatch's trepidation could present. Best to endure myself and Lily to her now, before she is tempted to act against my cause, whatever it may happen to be. She was still young, and therefore highly impressionable. I pushed her into agreeing to let me stay, but if I wanted to cement my residency, I needed to tread carefully. I noted with some satisfaction she gave me a worn smile. I'll try, Crystal, Overwatch said as she trotted over to the door and opened it. I'll try to be back as soon after I get all the paperwork done. It shouldn't take too long. The reports sometimes take up a bit more than any pony time expects. See ya soon. Farewell then, Overwatch. The door closed behind her, and there was a soft click of the lock. Now I had to deal with the other issue. Lily, get your head out of the refrigerator and take a bath already. And so that concludes Chapter 5 of In Sheep's Clothing. Smells like fish. I hope you enjoyed this video. Unfortunately, it appears my camera decided to shut off right there at the end. Until next time, everypony, please leave a comment, questions, concerns, suggestions, whatever feedback you may have in the comments below. Thank you very much and have a great evening, everyone. Till next time.